Democrats in the Senate voted against advancing the Republican funding bill. This was the 10th time they did so, as the divide deepens over healthcare-related demands. Remember, for Democrats, the biggest issue at the core here of the standoff, of the shutdown, is the Obamacare subsidies, which are set to expire in December, making insurance premiums skyrocket for millions of Americans. Democrats argue that any government funding agreement needs to include some healthcare policy riders to prevent the subsidies from expiring. Republicans, on the other hand, say this is a clean government funding bill. Vote to pass it. Then we can talk about any other issue. Last night, however, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, Republican of South Dakota, told MSNBC that he has privately told Senate Democratic leaders that if they need a commitment to a vote on extending Obamacare subsidies in exchange for their votes to reopen the government, well, he is willing, he said, to make that deal.
Oh, no. Are they buckling?
I've said if you need a vote, we can guarantee you get a vote by a date certain. At some point, Democrats have to take yes for an answer.
And joining us now to discuss the government shutdown and much more, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Republican of Louisiana. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Speaker. So you heard your Senate counterpart there offering Senate Democrats a promise of a vote by a date certain on extending the...
That promise is bullshit, but the fact that he even feels he needs to make that is a public concession. To go on and on about, you know, healthcare for illegals, and then for Thune to essentially be like, well, okay, we can do that later. I mean, he's lying, but it is a walk back.
Obamacare subsidies, are you willing to offer the same?
No, we want no compromise.
Yeah,
we want no compromise. Remember all of that bullshit that people were feeding us, and Schumer as well, back during the stopgap bill vote, about how if the government shut down, it would be Doge 2.0. Trump would run rampant. Nobody could stop him. And the government's been shut down for 2.5 weeks, and nothing changed. Nothing at all. They were like, oh, we're going to fire a bunch of people. Then they didn't. Oh, we're going to cut everything. Then they didn't. Because it turns out that the government shutting down is just like, it's just a bureaucratic nightmare. It's not like a secret make the president God button.
I mean, we've always been prepared to have a vote on that. It's something that was going to be discussed and debated deliberately throughout October and November, remembering that this is an end-of-the-year issue. The subsidy doesn't expire until December 31st. And as I've also explained, Jake, I mean, we have 535 members in the House and Senate, and there are a myriad number of ideas on reforms that would be necessary to actually have that passed into law and extended. We need all this time to negotiate that. But yes, I mean, that has always been the intention. And Leader Thune and I meet almost every other day, at least, to touch gloves and make sure we're on the same page. He is bending over backwards to offer to Schumer and the Democrats everything possible to get the government opened again. But they've now voted 10 times to keep it shut down. And real harm is being felt by real American people.
Still can't believe the Democrats have been holding firm on this. Still can't believe it.
By the way, that overture by Leader Thune was turned down by Chuck Schumer. He wants a guaranteed outcome of that vote, and that's not something we can deliver today because we haven't had all that deliberation yet.
There's not a lot of trust between Democrats and Republicans on the Hill right now. I want you to listen to what Senator Bernie Sanders said on our CNN town hall last night about talk of health care negotiations. This is what he said.
They've refused to negotiate, and anyone thinks that tomorrow they'll suddenly start negotiating, I think is smoking what is illegal in many states.
It sounds as though Leader Thune is negotiating behind the scenes to assure Democrats the negotiations are real. Are you talking at all to your Democratic counterparts? Are you doing any negotiating?
There have been constant negotiations going on, both inside the individual parties and across the chambers and across the aisle. I don't know what Bernie Sanders is talking about. So much of what he said, or what I've heard he said at his town hall last night, is incorrect, inaccurate. I think he knows that. He's been around here a long time. But look, this has, as I
again, notice how, because Bernie Sanders is really principled, it's really difficult for Mike Johnson to attack him. They have an easier time attacking people like Schumer and Jeffries. And Schumer and Jeffries are closer to Mike Johnson than they are to Sanders in a lot of respects, ideologically. So it's just an indicator how much strength you can derive from being principled and consistent, you know? There's a reason that Sanders is by far the most popular senator in the United States.
The Obamacare subsidy was an issue that was always going to have to be resolved by way of consensus and thoughtful deliberation and discussion. There has been a lot of that on this subject. There is currently, and there will be going forward. That has nothing to do with the short-term stopgap funding measure of the continuing resolution. Bernie Sanders knows that. Chuck Schumer knows that. Everybody knows that. This is not a health care fight. This is a fight about keeping the lights on. This is a short-term funding fight, 7 weeks, simple measure to allow us to continue all this work. And ironically, they are the ones that are trying to stop that.
This is like the end state of unitary executive theory, which is that the executive does absolutely everything unilaterally, and the legislature exists only to have month-long fights over every funding bill that covers only 1 month of time, you know? And that's just American government forever onward. You know, we fall like Rome. The legislature effectively stops existing. There's constant turmoil in news over the, 7th funding fight this year. It's all the same, always.
Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia has broken with your party, saying she's disgusted that these Obamacare subsidies are going to expire and that health insurance premiums could double. She says that Republican leaders have not given a plan to help the millions of Americans to deal with this. Do you have a plan?
Marjorie's frustrated because we're all frustrated. I had a thoughtful conversation with her on the phone right after she said that. I think the next evening, she's a friend and a colleague, and I explained to her all the deliberation and all the discussion that's been going on. Marjorie doesn't serve on the committees of jurisdiction where that's their specialty and their main area of interest. And I invited her to join the conversation and come into the room when all those deliberations are being had. So look, there is a lot of frustration around here right now because we know that the American people are suffering. They're struggling right now. Paychecks are being withheld. Services are not being provided. I mean, real harm to real people because Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate are playing a game. I am very hopeful, Jake, that at least 5 Senate Democrats will come to their senses and do the right thing. We must have 60 votes to break the impasse in the Senate. We sent over a totally clean CR.
He hates this shit, man. He is so much less triumphant than he normally is when dealing with the press. MTG is crazy, but at least she's telling some truth to her constituents. Well, MTG is a psycho grifter conspiracy lady, first and foremost. The only reason she's breaking with the Republicans here is because, A, she knows that if she's going to keep a career as like a contrarian, a lone voice, she can't stay with the Republican Party in its current form forever, especially when it seems like it's a sinking ship. And also, if you listen to her talk, it's like, she's still a freak Nazbol anti-Semite, I mean, she's not actually on the left. It's not even Nazbol ideology, really. It's just, she's just departing with, she has to be crazy,
And I can't emphasize this enough. We did not put any Republican partisan priorities on that bill when we sent it over from the House. It's exactly what Chuck Schumer voted on last March, and it's the exact same thing they've done their entire careers and gave impassioned speeches that we should do, because they said, and Chuck Schumer said himself as recently as March of this year, it would be terribly irresponsible and dangerous to shut the government down because of all the people who are harmed in that process. I don't know what's happened except that politics has gotten in the way, and he's afraid that he's going to have a challenge from AOC or one of the other Marxist Democrats, and then he's going to lose his Senate seat. That's the only way to explain his about-face.
So speaking of AOC, last night at CNN's Town Hall, she criticized you for closing down the House of Representatives during this period where negotiation is needed and the Senate's in session. Take a listen.
They need to pick up a phone, Caitlin. I've never seen...
Still, by the way, not swearing in Grijalva. Refusing now for weeks to swear in an elected Democrat because she would allow for a floor vote on the Epstein files being released. It's another coup. Like, if the House Majority Leader is just refusing to table the action to swear her in, then you're effectively... Like, what happens in 2026 if the Democrats do win the House and then Mike Johnson just refuses to swear them in?
People who hate working so much in my life. I mean, genuinely, they won't even pick up the phone. If I were Mike Johnson, you should be in that office negotiating with Hakeem Jeffries every damn day until we reopen this government. And any day that you don't do that is a failure.
Your response, sir?
Yeah, instead of doing publicity stunts like AOC likes to do, instead of making social media videos, Republicans are working. We have
It's a town hall.
been working. Right now, they're in their districts doing very valuable work. In our press conference this morning, I highlighted some of the very important things they're doing right now. What are they doing? They're trying to help their constituents navigate through this crisis that has been created by Democrats like AOC. She voted on September 19th in the House to block the pay for troops, TSA agents, Border Patrol agents, air traffic controllers, to stop the services to nutrition supplemental programs to women, infants, and children. She voted to stop.
He really is fading. We all remember what he used to talk like, right? Like just a couple of months ago. Whenever he was speaking to the press after a House session, he'd go out there and he'd talk to the press and he'd be grinning and, you know, he'd be like lying confidently. He's not happy with this.
Service to the elderly and disabled and veterans, that's her vote record. And she's trying to obscure that fact and blame Republicans. I am always open to negotiating, but we had the negotiations in the House. And the mutual agreement by Republicans and Democrats, who were appropriators, who were working on the government funding, was to extend it for 7 weeks to November 21st so they would have time to finish the appropriations process. AOC engaged in a political stunt, as did Hakeem Jeffries, and voted against it for their own partisan political purposes, and they have created this mess. So it doesn't matter how many hours you give her in a town hall, the first ever socialist town hall on CNN. I'm glad it was aired. You got to hear their real views, and it's pretty dangerous for the future of America.
Just no conviction, nothing. You didn't denounce Bernie Sanders a second ago, really, and you got to hear their views for the first time, and it's very dangerous. Really? It's the first time that people in CNN have had the ability to hear from AOC and Bernie Sanders? That's the most you can muster here?
The director of the Office of Management and Budget, Russ Vought, is taking the shutdown opportunity to fire for good federal workers, not just to furlough, but to fire them. Multiple Republican lawmakers tell CNN that they're only finding out about the administration decisions on layoffs and contract cancellations after they've already been made public. Congressman Mark Amodei says he found out that $202 million worth of battery recycling projects were being canceled in his Nevada district via press release. He said, quote, "The communications culture sucks."
None of this has anything to do with the shutdown. Just keep that in mind. They would have done this no matter what, okay? Like, in this case, we're literally talking about a cut to, a green energy incentive, like batteries, you know? They were doing this anyway. Any rhetoric you hear about how, well, they have no choice because of the shutdown, there's no relationship between these furloughs, firings, and cuts and the shutdown. There's no relationship at all. Cutting these people, these programs, doesn't do anything to free up money anywhere else. That's not how it works.
Do you think the Trump administration is giving you, the legislative branch, these details sufficiently? And if so, are you passing all this information along to your members?
Look, the Trump administration is doing the very best they can with a very difficult situation. It is the Democrats who have voted now 10 times to keep the government shut down and require all of these reductions in force and the determination about what are essential programs, policies, and personnel and what are not. This is an unenviable situation that no one in the White House relishes. The president asked Hakeem Jeffries.
You guys have been relishing it. You guys were literally gloating about how you're going to, here comes the Reaper. It's the rhetorical inconsistency, man.
And Chuck Schumer himself in the Oval Office, in my presence, and with Leader Thune, to please not shut the government down. Before any of this began, we never had to go down this road. But now that the Democrats keep deciding to keep the government shut down, they are forcing the administration to triage federal spending. Why? Because they have turned off the funding streams, Jake. That is what's happened. They can make this stop immediately if they would just do the simple and right thing, pass our simple 24-page bill that just merely says status quo, keep the lights on.
Pathetic.
Democrats refuse to do it. They are the ones that are inflicting this pain on the people.
That's not really quite accurate. I mean, Russ Vought is taking this opportunity to fire workers because they want to reduce the size of the federal workforce. None of these people are being paid anyway. It's not as though these furloughed workers are sapping up a budget. They're not being paid. This is an opportunity by Russ Vought to shrink government, as he has outlined in Project 2025 and other places.
Couldn't the Republicans have just avoided this situation? They were already winning on everything, and it seems like they bit off more than they can chew. Yeah, it seems like they went into this without a plan. Because their agenda legislatively is to be as obstructionist as possible and never, ever, ever concede or work with the Democrats or anything. They've totally given up on diplomacy. They have no interest in doing this like, well, we'll work together for these selective ends. It's my way or the highway. And because of that, they've gotten themselves into a bit of a pit here. They're not benefiting from it. If they fix the problem, they wouldn't benefit from it either because they would have capitulated to the Democrats. And even if the Democrats fold, I don't think it would really benefit the Republicans. Like, this was a fight they didn't need to pick. It was a line in the sand they didn't have to draw. And now they've put themselves in a position where no matter what, this just comes out looking like a big smudge on the record. I don't know. It really seems like it's a consequence of not having a strategy and of just being maximally belligerent. I don't really have any other explanation. Like, I think everyone here has basically just been told never fold no matter what, give the Democrats nothing, but then they waver in between being like, the Democrats have forced us to do this, and being like, ha, the Democrats have no idea what they've unleashed. You know, they just, whatever works in the moment, but it's not working. Here, look. By recent polling, can I find that, yeah, Americans blame Democrats and Republicans more or less equally, which is pretty impressive considering the fact that Republicans love Republicans and Democrats don't even like Democrats. For the blame to be spread pretty equally means that a significant number of Republicans and independents are also blaming Republicans, you know? We might break a record, man. The poll finds out that about half of Americans say Trump has, quote, a great deal of responsibility for the shutdown, the very highest amount of responsibility offered in the poll. That's probably reasonable. Trump is definitely the person from whom this directive is coming. Remember when he invited Schumer and Jeffries to his office to negotiate, and he had Trump 2028 hats? He had the MAGA hats on his desk, and it was just a photo op. And then when they left, they did like the AI meme with them or whatever. It's definitely coming from him. It's an ego thing.
No, look, this is a very important distinction. Furloughed workers do get paid on the back end. They get that pay back to them. It's reimbursed, as you know.
But you've threatened not to pay them. The Trump administration has threatened not to pay furloughed workers, which probably did a lot to endear you to them. I mean, that would be illegal, but you did threaten it, so I'm sure they appreciate that.
How it works. That's the statute and the tradition and the practice. Russ Vogt does want to reduce the size and scope of government, as does every common sense American, because the federal government is too big, it does too many things, and it does almost nothing well. As Reagan said, government is not the solution to our problem, government is the problem. We want to reform it. But this is a very important point, Jake. Russ Vogt doesn't want to go about it this way, nor does President Trump, nor does any Republican in Congress. We want to do it through the regular order, the regular process of the Congress, to do this in a deliberate fashion. We don't want federal employees or federal workers to be given a hardship. We've got some of those patriotic Americans who serve in these agencies of the government. They provide essential services.
Why are they talking like they're not in power at the moment? Unironically, yeah, he's talking the way Joe Biden did when he was president. He's the one doing it. He's the one not negotiating. He's the one ensuring this happens. He's like, I don't know. We're just very weak rhetoric.
Services for the people.
The only reason people belong to the MAGA movement is because they like feeling like the aggressors. They like being the cultural domineers. They like being the people on top. They like cruelty towards the people they dislike, you know? You cannot get, you will never motivate them with performative displays of weakness and haplessness. It doesn't work.
Again, it is the Democrats who are putting the Republican administration in the unenviable situation of trying to triage and figure out what are essential and what are not. That is not the choice of Russ Vogt or Donald J. Trump or the Speaker or the leader in the Senate. It is the Democrats that are doing this to the American people. Plain and simple. That's the fact, and everybody can.
Well, we'll see how long this one goes. You're right about Johnson getting depleted. This is the way he ended his press conference today.
I don't like being mad, Mike. I want to be happy, Mike. I want to be the happy warrior, but I am so upset about this. God bless America. We're done. Thanks.
Weird shit, man. Weird shit. Happy warrior, man. Dare I say woman moment? We're all always having a woman moment in our hearts.